show.
Welcome to episode 101 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. Thank you so much for listening and watching us on YouTube as well. As of Tuesday, April 25th, the Toronto Maple Leafs are back, baby. It was 4-1. It was 4-1 in the third period. Everyone counted them out, but the Toronto Maple Leafs came storming back. 3 third-period goals to send it to overtime before Alex Kerfoot scored the OT winner. And not to mention the comeback in Game 3. Ryan O'Reilly, final minute, ties it up, and playoff Morgan Rielly with the OT winner. Just like that, the Leafs have a 3-1 lead on the Tampa Bay Lightning. We are going to give you our thoughts and opinions on everything that has gone down in this series. And we're going to go through some of the other series as well. Oilers and Kings and everything else going on in the NHL. I promise you want to stay tuned until the very end of this episode, because this one is going to be juicy. All right, it is officially time to welcome in my partner in crime, Mr. Michael Lepore. How you doing, man? Are you still buzzing from last night?
Yeah, I'm on not much sleep, as I'm sure most Leafs fans are. The heart rate was at like 300 after the overtime win. Just pure joy, pure screaming. I'm sure the neighbors thought something was going on. And yeah, didn't really sleep, but doesn't matter. I'm in a good mood today. I was driving to hockey this morning at 6 a.m., rocking out the Italian wedding music, just with a big smile on my face, drinking my coffee. Good times, man. Good times. It's not over yet, but at least for a few hours, Leafs fans can feel good about themselves and good about their team. I've said forever that a gross thing about being a Leaf fan, or like a recent Leaf fan anyway, is seeing other amazing hockey moments and those moments that fan bases get to have. Like, I always think back to like Steve Yzerman's overtime winner against the Blues on John Casey, stuff like that, big comebacks, Game 7 overtime winners, stuff like that. And it's been a long time since Leafs fans have been able to experience that kind of joy. And we got that last night, and the series is not over. So it could serve as a bigger kick in the nuts if they blow this. But for the time being, we're allowed to feel good about ourselves and allowed to feel good about our team.
Things like this don't usually happen to the Leafs. Like,
No,
go back
hockey
to
gods
Game
don't
3,
apply. Yeah.
right? I think we all thought the Leafs were going to probably lose that game in overtime, because they always lose that game in overtime. And that's what everyone was talking about after the game. It's like, wow, finally the Leafs came through in the clutch. How many times have we seen it go south? Go back to last year against the Lightning, where the Leafs outplayed them in that Game 6 overtime. The 2 overtimes against the Montreal Canadiens. There's just been so many moments, especially in the Matthews and Marner era, where they've been so close to breaking through and coming through when it matters most and having a big clutch moment where Matthews or Marner steps up, and it just never happened. And Matthews and Marner, sure, they didn't score the OT winners in Games 3 and 4, but they stepped up when it mattered most. And it's just so nice to see the script finally flipped in favor of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Lepore. It's just amazing to see.
Yeah, Game 3 overtime. I got a text from my buddy after we tied it. Oh, we're going to win it now. We're going to win it in OT. And my response was just calmly, no, man. Hockey god stuff doesn't apply to the Toronto Maple Leafs. But they did it. Alex Kerfoot, man. Alex Kerfoot, my wife's favorite player, with the deflection in front. What's been sick about these last 2 games that they got to put a smile on every Leafs fan's face is you look at the guys who've stepped up, and, you know, I'll say for the entire series so far, think of all the guys who have been shit on like crazy this season. Nylander always takes a lot of shit. I think he's been fantastic. Nylander's been great. Morgan Rielly, man. Morgan Rielly has looked like an absolute fucking beast out
Playoff
there.
Morgan Rielly is a real thing, man. The guy's
amazing.
A monster.
Like, what are people saying now? And I mentioned Kerfoot. Kerfoot could not score a goal to save his life this year. He was getting absolutely trashed. And we're in a time where, of course, our roster is very top heavy when it comes to salary. So we have to get value at the bottom of our lineup. And I've always thought it's kind of unfair to Kerfoot because at his 3.5 million, he's not bad value. But people are always like, oh, we need to get rid of Kerfoot to free up that 3.5 million. I mean, he is what he is, and he would get that money anywhere else in the league. So it was great to see him score, man. His first career overtime winner, the Harvard boy, he was pumped. And again, what I loved about it, it wasn't one of those joyous, smiley celebrations. It was a mean, let's go. Let's go. And then showing the bench. Just, again, awesome new experience. But they've been playing like shit.
They haven't been playing their best hockey. I mean,
we can talk about that as happy as we are. We're going to look in the mirror.
We will definitely get to that. One thing I just want to add on Kerfoot. You know, Leafs Nation has been so tough on this guy. And it's, as you said, Lepore, his contract isn't the best. It's not a terrible contract by any means. I've always thought he's kind of gotten an unfair rep here. Like, I love his speed. I love his versatility. People just always wanted him to produce more. They always wanted more production on the score sheet. But one thing that was very telling to me after that game was seeing what Morgan Riley and Austin Matthews said about Kerfoot. And how loved he is in the room. And then it kind of all made sense to me afterwards. Like, oh, no wonder the Leafs haven't wanted to get rid of this guy, because he's beloved in the room. Everyone loves this guy. They're all rooting for him. They couldn't be happier for him scoring that OT winner. Sheldon Keefe, saying that he's told Kerfoot that he's going to score a big goal going back to the start of the season. So it just goes to show how liked he is in that room. And it kind of all makes sense now, because everyone's wanted to run this guy out of town, and amazing for him to have a moment like that on this Leafs team.
That's got to be a common thing in the National Hockey League, because fans, we only see the outside. We only watch the games. We don't know the conversations. We don't know the relationships these guys have. Yeah. Like, let's say there's a guy by the books corporately that should be traded or should be dealt, but he's best friends with 4 guys on the team, and it'll suck for them if he gets let go. Maybe you evaluate it. You know what I mean? I've heard that about a lot of guys. I heard that about Muzzin, to be fair. Like, last couple of years, his injuries, people, okay, we got to get rid of him, whatever, he's a liability. I've heard, I think it was Chris Johnson said he's essentially Captain B in that locker room. So it's not going to happen. Like, he's too much of a leader, brings too many intangibles. So, and that is good to know, because I always say about sports, you play well when you're happy. So if these guys like each other and are going to stand up for each other, that's great.
Yeah, and all the guys that the Leafs acquired in the summer at the trade deadline, like, everyone's coming through, man. Luke Shen has been very good.
Fuck, like
Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, what more can I say about him? Noel Acciari scoring big goals. Like, everybody is stepping up for this Leafs team.
What's so confusing, again, hockey makes no sense, and last game was an example of that. Luke Shen, okay, how is he better 15 years later? I mean,
it makes no sense, man. That's a testament to him just sticking with it, because I thought he was done, honestly, like 5 or 6 years ago. And then he kind of had this career resurgence, and then he wins a cup in Tampa. And now he's here, and he's looked good, man. I thought he was going to be slow and make mistakes and kind of cost us maybe a game or two. He has been excellent at playing his role. Honestly, I couldn't be happier for Luke Shen, the way that he's played.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of, you get older, you get more in tune with your body, and especially the style he plays, just more aware of what you're not the best at and adapting to certain situations. I saw this one thing about, it was when he hit 1,000 games in the NHL, and everyone kind of like raised their eyebrows. Luke Shen played 1,000 games. But the person broke it down they put Luke Shen and other defensemen, they were kind of like in his category of style. And it was this big list of defensemen that play kind of that stay-at-home role. And the guy's point was that role doesn't really exist anymore, right? You have to be able to move your feet. You have to be able to move the puck. So if you are this type of player, it's hard to stay in the league. And the guy compared Shen to everyone else. And in terms of like minutes, games played, other underlying numbers, he was very, very good. So, I mean, you don't want to say, okay, it's not his fault that he didn't work out to be like the 5th overall pick that everyone thought he was going to be, the Twin Tower. Him and Doughty were the Twin Towers of the World Juniors, but that was just the style of player he was. That's his body type, and he's done well with what he's been given, and it's crazy to see. And again, another like feel good thing for the Leafs. for us to get him back, and he looks good. And now I'm not going to say people will always look negatively at his first phase in Toronto, but there's always kind of like that was disappointing. Now, when you say Luke Schen's name, is going to put a smile on people's face.
Yeah, Luke Schenn has been fantastic, whether it's, breaking the puck out of the zone, hitting dudes and playing that physical style, whether it's stepping in between the benches to diffuse a situation when the entire Lightning team is chirping the Leafs and Luke Schenn is just like the bodyguard of the team, just standing in the middle, policing things.
That was amazing.
Like even throwing pucks on net. I love how he has that ability, and he doesn't have a great shot, but he's always looking to shoot the puck, which I like in the offensive zone. And we've seen now with Andrei Vasilevsky, man, if you can just get the puck on net from the point, good things happen against this guy. And I don't want to get too far into the stats because people are going to say, stats don't matter, or shut up, the playoffs are different, blah, blah, blah. But just looking at some of the advanced stats, Luke Schenn leads the team in goals for percentage at all strengths in this series. He's been on the ice for 5 goals for, just 1 against. That's over an 83% clip.
Sick.
All right. Matthew Nyes is second on the list. Morgan Riley's third. Riley and Matthews have both been on the ice for 11 goals in this series, only 3 goals against.
There you go.
I'll keep going down the list here.
Marner's got 10 points.
Mitch Marner, man, 10 points in 4 games. He's been on the ice for 12 goals for, 4 against.
There you go.
Nylander, 10 and 7. The only guy who's underwater at this point, like significantly underwater, well, really, there's 2 guys. Justin Hall, who's been on the ice for 2 goals for and 11 goals against. Whoa. And surprisingly, TJ Brody, 3 goals for, 7 goals against.
Yeah, Brody hasn't looked the greatest. But does this include power play? This is just 5 on 5.
This includes all strengths, all situations.
Yeah, because I'd like to see, Tampa's power play, and it's been humming.
And that's fair.
So that might be hurting Brody and Hall if they've been on the ice for a lot of these penalty kills.
Exactly. But all things considered, man, this team's they've been good. Now listen, game 3 was ugly. Whoa. They got outplayed, but they found a way to win. And I'll say this about game 4, Lepore, as poorly as they started, and we all said, here we go again. The Leafs blow another opportunity to take a stranglehold of the series. This is going to go back to Toronto tied 2-2. From the second period on, they did play well. It wasn't like game 3 where they got completely outplayed for the entire 60 minutes, and even in overtime as well, they got outplayed. Mm-hmm. But in game 4, from the second period on, and even going into overtime, Lepore, they played very well. You look at the advanced stats, you look at just the plain shot metrics. They outshot the Lightning, I believe, in the second, third, and overtime.
Yeah, heavily.
Game 4. So, yeah, it was really disappointing. There was a 5-period stretch from the first period of game 3 until the first period of game 4, including that game 3 overtime. So that's 5 periods where I thought the Leafs got outplayed, but they turned it around and showed what they're all about. And everyone was talking about heart and killer instinct. Well, there's your heart and there's your killer instinct coming back from the dead. It's time for a quick break for a word about MANSCAPED. Gentlemen, if you didn't already know, it's tax season. I mean, I hope you know it's tax season. And you know what that means? MANSCAPED is here to make sure your paperwork is done and your boys downstairs are having fun. Yes. Make sure you spend your tax return money on the important things this year, like family, friends, and ball products. Mm-hmm. Join the 8 million men worldwide who trust MANSCAPED by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using our exclusive promo code GFP20. Lepore, MANSCAPED never misses, man.
MANSCAPED never misses. Anthony Bruno. As mentioned, tax season sucks. You're going through all that paperwork, old receipt. It's all complicated. Well, I'll tell you what's not a complicated part of your life: keeping your balls clean. So as soon as you finish watching this ad, head over to manscaped.com, look at all the amazing products, find what you like, throw it in your cart, and when you're checking out, don't you dare forget, use the promo code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping.
And in order to keep your balls clean, you need to use the Lawnmower 4.0. This thing is outstanding. I've been using this thing for a long time now. as has Lepore. Keep your nose hairs clean, your ear hairs. Use the weed whacker. I mean, there's so many amazing products on the website. And once again, to get 20% off and free shipping, use our exclusive promo code GFP20. Go to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using our exclusive promo code GFP20. So, Lepore, I mean, are you concerned with those 5 periods, how horrible they looked? Or do you think they've turned the tide here and they can finally close this thing out?
Yeah, and I'll touch first on last night's game and the goals Tampa scored. Again, like, they were outplaying us. They look good. We did not. But at the same time, all their goals were kind of cheesy, man. I mean, the first one, Nylander took that bad penalty. And I mean, it was a penalty. And you give Tampa that opportunity, they very well may hurt you. And that pass from Kucherov was ridiculous. And then I'm trying to go back on the other goals. There was that one. Then the second one was the Kerfoot giveaway. Brutal. Way to redeem yourself. Then the third one was the one that went off Stamkos's foot. And then the fourth one was that Killorn 1 in a million shot that like double barred and in. Like, the guy hadn't scored in 26 games and he puts that shot in.
Yeah, on the
like,
broadcast before the game, it was 29 games. He had gone 29 straight playoff games without a goal. And then, of course, the guy goes into God mode against the Leafs.
So, yeah, I mean, and that's not to say, like, I mean, the goals go in, the goals got to go in. You got to stop them. And if you're on their side, you got to score them. But, I mean, I thought the score wasn't 4-1 when it was 4-1. Anyways, as far as how they're playing, yeah, they got to be better. They have to be better. And even if they're able to close out this series, and they brought this out yesterday, and not that it matters, they only lost 3 in a row once this season. But you got to think too, man, you got to beat Tampa 4 times in a row. That's a task. That's a task. And that's not me saying I'm betting on Tampa in game 5, but it'll take a lot to win that game. I think, if I'm being straightforward, no, I'm not concerned, because I think it serves as a wake-up call. You kind of got it out of your system. You've been bad, right? And let's face it, if the Leafs lose this series, if Tampa rolls off 3 straight wins, okay, and we look back objectively at the 7 games, we can say we got hammered in game 1, we played well in game 2, we got through by the skin of our teeth in games 3 and 4, but then we lost 5, 6, and 7. We don't deserve to win. Like, well, what are you going to say now? So I think it was a slap in the face. And I think going back home, man, that building is going to be rocking more than it has been, I think, in the last 20 years. Because I think people know, like, I don't want to say you go into a game 5 up 3-1, not going 100 miles an hour. But you could see teams having that thing in the back of their mind of, okay, we have some breathing room and we have game 7 at home if all goes wrong. No. The Leafs have to close this in game 5. They have to. And I've made the point previously on this show about how if there's anything that these embarrassing losses have hopefully taught the team, it's that. No, you have to win in game 5. And like I said, the building's going to be rocking. And I actually thought to myself, right? And again, you're emotional. And when you're emotional, you spend money and you're willing to do crazy things. I looked at my wife like a few minutes after the game and I said, if I got a phone call right now that someone had a ticket for me for game 5, what would the price have to be for me to say no?
Man, I mean, I'm not paying over $1,000 for a ticket.
$1,000?
I'm sorry.
You're probably paying
Screw that. As much as I love this team, I mean, God, I know, but you said it, man. Scotiabank Arena is gonna be buzzing on Thursday for game 5. Like, it's almost like everything has culminated now into this moment. It feels like the demons are being exorcised before our eyes, game by game. Even with the whole 4-1 comeback, go back to 2013 against Boston. The Leafs blow a 4-1 third period lead in game 7 of the Bruins. And, you know, the rest is history. And then they go on this 10-year run, this 9 to 10-year run of just horrible playoff performances. And now it just finally seems like the curse is being lifted. The demons are being exorcised. And Thursday night's going to be rocking. But you, Lepore, how much would you pay for a ticket for real for game 5?
Game 5, I think it changes, right? Because if someone asks you and it's actually available to you, you'll probably go higher than you said beforehand. we'll say an average ticket, like a nosebleed, two-thirds up isn't a nosebleed, but just like an average ticket. I'll put it this way. At 500, I'd have a hard time saying no.
Yeah, I think I'd probably pay 500 to see it, to see their first series victory since 2004. And again, this series is not over. We're not declaring it over. But man, just it really does feel like things are different this year. Things are different. Oh, look, he said things are different. The same thing's going to happen. The Leafs are going to have their golf clubs in a couple weeks. Shut up. First of all, shut the fuck up. All right, let us enjoy this moment. Number one. And it really does feel different, Lepore. Just Ryan O'Reilly being here, Luke Schenn being in the mix. It really does feel different. The way that they've come back, winning games that they have no business winning, going back to game 3. Like, think about the Montreal Canadiens. How many times in that series did the Leafs dominate the game and then found a way to lose? Almost every game.
Well, three times out of the 4 losses. I mean, game 7.
Game 7 was like the one game where I was like, okay, the Habs actually deserve to win this game. It was a perfect road game. Yeah. And I believe it ended like 3-1 or 3-0.
Yeah, 3-1.
But the Leafs, it just feels different this time around because they are finding ways to win even when they aren't outplaying the opponent. And that's what playoff hockey is all about. And I think they're going to come out with a great effort at home. And you even go back to the stats that I mentioned before the series, Lepore. The Lightning were horrible on the road this season. And sure, they did play well in game 1. But again, that wasn't really like a dominant effort at 5-on-5. They had 4 power play goals. Everything was going their way. The bunting hit. The Leafs handed that game to them on a silver platter. But that second game, the Lightning were horrible, man. The Leafs just stomped them on home ice. So I don't think we're going to see a 7-2 game in game 5, but I think the Leafs are going to make it very, very difficult on that Lightning team that has been horrible on the road all season. 4 games under 500, the worst road record of all 16 playoff teams this year. The Leafs have a golden opportunity, and they cannot let this slip away, man. We do not want to go back to Tampa for game 6.
No.
We do not want to play with fire. This shit needs to end on Thursday in game 5.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to a high-level coach about the home ice thing for Tampa Bay because I'm watching them, and it's not too usually when you're playing another team in the playoffs, this hatred kind of builds in you. Like, you hate their players. You're calling them all divers. You want to punch the coach in the face in the press conferences. But I'm like the opposite. When I watch Tampa, Braden Point's incredible. I think Kucherov's historically underrated. Cooper is just amazing on the mic. He always says the right things. He's so smart, so articulate, so calculated. You're going to tell me you don't like Vasilevsky, Victor Hedman. The cast of characters on that team is amazing. As much as we want to strangle Hagel right now, we'd want him on our team. So they're stacked. But and my point in all this is that I'd like to talk to a high-level coach about the home ice thing with regard to having the second change. How, of course, part of it, when I say it, I'm referring to them outplaying the hell out of us in the last 2 games. Of course, part of it has to do with them having the second change, but how much of it is that? And then compared to on the road where they're not good, and is part of it, any coach could do that. They had second change with the Lightning there, or is it something Cooper's doing? Because if we're going to say one thing head to head, even down 3-1, I think Cooper's out coaching Keefe.
Okay, that's a take.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to disagree with you, honestly, because like I said, for that 5-period stretch, the Leafs could barely generate anything offensively. The Lightning were just clogging up the neutral zone. Up until the 3rd period of game 4, when the Leafs finally broke through and Austin Matthews finally seemed to have time and space, and the same with Mitch Marner and William Nylander, it was rough, man. It felt like the Lightning found something and watched some tape on the Leafs and were just clogging up the neutral zone, even on the PK.
Oh,
like the
they
Leafs
made it look terrible.
Could not get into the zone and set up their power play to save their lives. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Power play after power play. The Lightning were creating that line right at the blue line. It's like, try to penetrate through us. We're going to be aggressive as hell. And then when the Leafs gained the zone on the power play, they were just attacking the puck carrier and trying to get the puck out of the zone as quick as they could, and it was working. the Leafs power play looked like it was just like bamboozled. Like they had no idea how to adjust to that. That was so concerning, man. Like, I'm not going to lie. When I was watching that, I go, God, the Leafs could be in real trouble. And then I don't know what happened in that third period. I mean, even going back to the second period where the Leafs started to find their game. I don't know what happened, if it was the Lightning taking their foot off the gas or Keith maybe made a couple tactical changes, but it is hard to disagree with you, Lepore, that Cooper has been the better coach in this series, but the Leafs have just found a way to come back in these games and steal a couple, man.
Yeah, to your point about the penalty kill in hockey, everyone knows momentum and confidence and lack of confidence is such an important thing. Wasn't it funny that our power play couldn't get in at all, as you mentioned, all game, and then we got the one in overtime and easy entry, snapping it around, doing what we wanted. Funny, right? And now your confidence is raised because it's 4-4 and the other team is playing a little scared and they're hesitating. It was that weird thing though, right? Where you knew the Leafs were going to score. Because like I said, you just saw that slump in Tampa and you were just kind of waiting for it. And I'll say this, and people may say this is like totally biased, or I'm just saying this now. I say it all the time. Hockey is the most unpredictable sport in the world, but at the same time, it's very predictable. When Matthews made it 4-2, I'm like, we're going overtime. That fourth goal, Bruno, I'm sure people jumped up, celebrated, whatever. I've seen it too many times where you get that second goal, or you get that goal to put you down by 2, and you just, those eyebrows raised for the other team, and they start to panic a little bit. I'm sure people went absolutely bananas on that Riley goal to tie it. I didn't flinch, Bruno. I was waiting for it. 100%.
You knew it was coming, yeah.
And that's not me trying to sound arrogant. I've just seen this story too many times. And going back to when the Leafs blew it in 2013, they were up 4-1. And I said to myself, don't let them get one. Like, don't let them get one, because I knew. Or if you do let them get one, okay, they can have that. Let them score with 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left, because then now you're going almost virtually impossible to blow it. But momentum's a real thing in hockey, man. That ice tilts, and we saw it last night. Night and day. The confidence, the hesitation on the other side. It's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. It's why the sport's so hard to bet on.
Yeah, and you could just tell the Lightning were almost playing not to lose at that point. Like, they were shell-shocked. Austin Matthews snipes that one past Vasilevsky to make it 4-2. And then when Matthews tipped in the 4-3 goal, then you could really tell, like, the Lightning were like, man, we could be in some trouble here. Because there was a lot of time left on the clock. When Matthews scored that 4-3 goal, as I check right now,
like 6 or 8 minutes left.
There was still about 8 minutes left on the clock. Yeah, 8.5 minutes left.
Riley scored. There were still 4 minutes left. I think they scored all 3 within 6 minutes or something.
Exactly. So they still had a lot of time, and the way they were playing, it did feel that way. It did feel like, man, here we come. And especially after they came back in game 3, I think Leafs Nation just had that little bit of confidence that maybe wouldn't have been there in the past, to think like, no, this team can actually come back right now. And then to see them pull it off was just incredible.
And even Matthews, to be fair, I mentioned how there's a lot of feel-good stories in these last 2 games about guys who've had not the greatest regular season or took a lot of hell during the season. So far in the series, I mean, Matthews had points, but you were seeing it on Twitter. Like, no, he's got to take over. He's got to be the best player. He won the Hart Trophy last year. People were comparing him to McDavid. You saw like that line everywhere. And 2 goals in a 3-goal comeback. What more do you want? And how bad too, right? Again, moments you want. I was like, fuck, overtime winner, B. Matthews for the hat trick. Like, let's be that historic
that would have just been the cherry on top.
Yeah, just like, now what are you gonna say?
Like, but man, right? I saw so many takes on Twitter specifically, because that's the app that I'm usually tracking during the game. You know, then I'm going to YouTube and TikTok and some other things. But live action, most people are on Twitter. And all the takes I saw about Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, man.
But the Matthews ones were fair, Bruno.
They were fair.
They were fair. You got to do it, man.
Yeah. Here's what I will say. I think Matthews has actually had a really good series. Like, I think he's been really solid, honestly, all 5 games. But you said it, Lepore, and I completely agree with you. He had yet to take over a game. He had yet to have that signature game. And not only in this series, you go back to every series that guy has played so far. He hasn't had that signature jump on my shoulders. I'm going to carry this team to a victory. And we finally saw that last night in game 4. And it was amazing to see. And I hope he continues it. He now has 7 points in 4 games. Marner's up to 10 points in 4 games. Nylander's buzzing. O'Reilly's buzzing. Tavares had that hat trick in game 2. And Morgan Riley, obviously, I mean, everyone knows how much I love Morgan Riley. The guy is a dog. But yeah, man, I mean, what a moment. What a moment for Matthews last night.
Is it prediction time for game 5?
I think so. I think so. Before
out?
we jump to some of the other series, let's give our predictions. So before we do, I'll set the table. Lepore had the Leafs winning in 5. All right. And that prediction is looking pretty darn good right now. Whereas I had the Leafs.
Can I win
in 6.
Bruno? Can I win the mystery box?
Yeah, you can absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure that would make people really happy. And the winner is Michael Lepore.
Our subs will drop by like
700
700 people overnight if that happens.
I'm sure the comments will go up, and I'm sure they won't be very kind.
I promise you, everyone, Lepore and myself are not going to win this mystery box. All right,
Yeah.
I guarantee that there's not going to be any funny business going on. All right.
Yeah.
But so that's how things are looking. Lepore had the Leafs in 5. I had the Leafs in 6. Lepore, man, your prediction is looking phenomenal right now.
Well, they got to do it. Yeah, I will say, and I hate to say it out loud. I really do hate to say this out loud. I think the Leafs win easily in game 5.
I love it.
I think Tampa, like, it's just emotional and demoralizing the last 2 games, what they've been through. Cause I mean, everyone was poking at Hagel, his intermission comments about how he's not surprised they're at 4-1 based on how they played even the previous game. But to be fair, they did play very well in game 3.
Yeah, they did. What he said wasn't wrong.
And then in game 4, it's like, here they are up 4-1, you know, deserving an opportunity up 3 goals. They are. So you felt great in game 3. You got punched in the mouth. Okay. You felt great in game 4. You had a stranglehold on this game and you got punched in the mouth. And now you have to go to a place where a team rarely loses and you rarely win on the road. Like I said, the crowd's going to be crazy. I think Toronto wins easily. Again, I cringe, like my skin's crawling and whatever. Fuck it. I'm just going to be honest. I really do think they close it out. And everyone comment down below. We talked earlier about prices for game 5 tickets. Comment down below with what you'd be willing to pay or what you'd be willing to give up, whether it's your kidney, your dog, your spouse, whatever, your car. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know in the comments and be honest. Don't say you're going to pay $8,000 for a ticket.
$8 grand.
All right. Unless you're very rich and you have
and
that
let us
money.
know. Let us know. You can sponsor the
Yeah, and
podcast.
then we can maybe work out a little sponsorship or something for the podcast.
Yeah, we'll start giving away Leafs tickets on the show. That'll help.
Oh man, can you imagine? The next giveaway, Game 7 tickets to the Stanley Cup final in Toronto.
Whoa.
Given away on the GFP podcast. Let's not jump that far ahead.
Yeah,
All right,
relax.
Getting
Relax.
a little bit too far ahead of myself. But no, Lepore, everything you said makes a ton of sense. I had the Leafs in 6, but I'm going to amend that prediction. I'm with you, man. I think they close this out on Thursday night in game 5. I think this is a demoralizing spot to be in for the Tampa Bay Lightning, to lose both of those games at home where they outplayed the Leafs the entire game and even in overtime of game 3. And then to come out as strong as they did in game 4. We have never seen the Lightning do this. Blow a 3-goal third period lead in the playoffs. Like, it just doesn't happen. Andrei Vasilevsky, he can't figure it out right now. All right.
He hasn't lost 3 in a row since the Columbus series.
It's wild. The Leafs have his number in 11 playoff games against the Toronto Maple Leafs over the last 2 seasons. Andrei Vasilevsky is 5-6 with an .882 save percentage. An .882 save percentage. All the takes I've heard about playoff Vasilevsky, he can steal a series, blah, blah, blah. Say what you want about Andrei Vasilevsky, and his accolades and track record speak for itself, but the Leafs have his number. And I look at something that Red Wings head coach Derek Lalonde said on the panel in game 4. When he was coaching when he was on the Lightning coaching staff as an assistant, he said that they noticed that Andrei Vasilevsky was one of the worst goalies in the league at tracking pucks from the point.
What?
Lepore, you got to go watch this if you haven't seen it. You'll
Wow.
probably find it on Twitter. Maybe it's up on YouTube as well. He mentioned that they did a study and they noticed that Vasilevsky was one of the worst goalies in the league at tracking pucks from the point. And the Lightning, as a result of that, had to change their entire defensive structure in the D zone because of that. And look what you have seen now over these last couple of games, even going back earlier in the series. All of these shots from the point that are either going in directly, getting tipped in front.
Wow.
It's all starting to make sense now, man. I think the Leafs have found something. And an 882 save percentage in 11 playoff games against the Leafs. There's not a single team that has Vasilevsky's number like the Leafs do. So saying all that, I'm with you, Lepore. I think it's going to be it's going to be insane at Scotiabank Arena in Game 5. The fans are going to be buzzing. They're going to be rocking. If any Lightning player heads to the penalty box, people are going to be banging on the glass. They're going to be towing the line. They're not going to jump into the penalty box, but I think we're going to see a wild, rowdy, crazy atmosphere at Scotiabank Arena, and I think the Leafs are going to come out guns a-blazing, and I think they're going to close this out, and I think it's going to be a dominant victory. I'm not going to say a 7-2 win, but I think they go in there, they get the job done in Game 5, and then bring on the Boston Bruins in round 2.
Yeah, I think the difference is, and we'll move on, I think the difference is in previous years, there was the time against Boston. They had Game 6 at home. They could have closed it out. They didn't. Against Montreal, there was no crowd. Last year, Game 7, the crowd was crazy. I mean, Leafs fans have a lot of passion. They're loud. They're going to do their thing. But there was always, especially, Game 7 last year, let's be honest, there was always that nervous energy.
Exactly.
Like very, very kind of, let's almost like, let's not blow this rather than let's fucking go. Yeah. And I just feel for some reason this time, I think it's based on the last 2 wins. The crowd is going to feel that way. And the players are going to feel that way. Because even Game 7 last year, everyone talks about how, Toronto outplayed Tampa, outshot them, blah, blah, scoring chances. Toronto played nervous. They played nerve. They were playing not to lose the whole game. And I expect them in this Game 5 to go out there and play to win.
Yeah, I think that's all that needs to be said, Lepore. You nailed it. The nervous energy is going to turn into the let's fucking go energy.
Yeah.
And I think the Leafs get it done. All right. Oilers Kings.
Ooh.
This series has been fascinating.
Amazing to watch. Fantastic.
It's been unbelievable. 3 overtime games out of the 4 so far. It's tied at 2.
Yeah.
The Oilers were down 3-0 in Game 4. It looked like they were going to go down 3-1. And then they put Jack Campbell in net. I go, oh man, what can possibly go wrong here?
Yeah,
with Jack Campbell in net in a playoff game.
Yeah, good point.
But Jack Campbell, credit to him. He was spectacular in Game 4. He essentially saved the Oilers season. On top of Draisaitl and McDavid, who stepped up when they needed him most as well. And Evander Kane, of course. And Zach Hyman, former Leaf, who scored the OT winner. But the Oilers looked like they were done, man. Can you imagine? Like, we could have been sitting here today with the Leafs up 3-1 and the Oilers down 3-1. But credit to the Oilers, who came back in that Game 4. But how do we feel about this series moving forward? Because the Kings have given them a lot of issues. The Oilers are struggling at 5-on-5. Stuart Skinner has been okay. He has not been as good as Korpisalo, who's been amazing, and Leaf fans know everything about Jonas Korpisalo in that Columbus series back in 2020. So what are your thoughts right now on how the rest of this series is going to play out? Edmonton does have home ice, but it does feel like this is going to go 7.
Okay. It's tough because, like you mentioned, the series has been so bananas. You'd like to think Edmonton has the momentum now after that win, but at the same time, you can argue that momentum doesn't carry over. I saw the line for tonight. If I remember correctly, the Kings were, maybe you can check it now. I think I saw the Kings at like plus 200 or like plus 180. I might sprinkle something on that because I know Edmonton is great on home ice and they're the favorite in the series, but I think that's a stretch. I'll say it about Edmonton, man.
Yeah, you're right. I'm seeing them at plus 190 right now, and I'm
Okay,
sure they're plus 200 depending on the book you look at. But
there
yeah,
you go.
it's a pretty good value there on the LA Kings tonight.
Yeah, and I'll just be perfectly honest. When it comes to the Oilers, and I don't even necessarily think this is a take. I just think this is the reality. I have never in my entire hockey watching life seen a team that just relies so much on the power play. So much on the power play. And they were down 3-0, 2 power play goals out of 3 to get back into it. And let's say it, Oilers fans, that was a bullshit call that gave you that tying goal, that power play. That was one of the worst calls I've ever seen.
Kevin Fiala, 2 minutes for a clean hit in the Stanley Cup playoffs, gets called for a trip on Draisaitl.
Genuinely, you always hear, oh, that's the worst call I've ever seen. No, that may have been the worst call I've ever seen. But because sometimes even a bad call, you can kind of see something. Oh, the referee probably thought he clipped him or he thought he stepped on his stick. No, that was a body check. Okay, and we can debate actually what was the worst call, that one or those ones on Foligno in the Minnesota Dallas series. But it's tough, man. Like, you know what? I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna say Edmonton in 7. I think that was actually my prediction before. I mean, I said Edmonton in 6, but I'll say Edmonton in 7. I say they close it out. But if you told me how many power plays the Oilers were gonna get going into these games and it wasn't allowed, I wouldn't be picking them because that's the reality. And they're going back to Skinner, right? We can just throw that in the track.
Yeah, I would be stunned if Campbell starts game 5. I think they go back to Stuart Skinner for sure.
Yeah, okay. I mean, so yeah, I'll say Oilers win tonight. I'll say Kings win it in La La Land, and McDavid and co. win it in 7. What do you think, Bruno?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. And I did have Oilers in 7 when we did our playoff preview show. And I said it on the pod that the Kings were going to make this a lot more difficult than people realized. Like, I was stunned, Lepore, at the amount of people that were penciling the Oilers into the Stanley Cup Finals. Like, they were just going to moonwalk their way to the Stanley Cup Final. They were going to get through the Kings and then beat Vegas and then beat Colorado. And then they were going to play Boston in the Stanley Cup Final. The consensus was Oilers Bruins Cup Final.
Yeah.
If you're in a playoff pool or you're in like a bracket pool, I mean, I would be shocked if less than 85% of the people have either the Oilers or Bruins in the Cup Final. And based on their roster construction, their bracket, every hockey pool I'm in, like literally 90% of the pool has McDavid and Draisaitl. And listen, I'm one of them. I picked McDavid and Draisaitl in a lot of my pools, but I didn't think it would be easy. And I do think that they can get clipped, whether it's in this first round, whether that's to Dallas or Colorado down the road. But you're seeing it, man. This team had a historically great power play, operating at over 32% in the regular season. But when they don't get power plays in the playoffs and they have to play at 5-on-5 against a very good 5-on-5 team that's very good defensively, they're having issues. And they had to pull a rabbit out of their ass. And listen, the Leafs pulled a rabbit out of their ass as well to be up 3-1 on Tampa. But man, did it look bleak when the Oilers were down 3-0 in game 4. I thought, man, really? This team is going to go out like this? So it was good to see them bounce back and tie the series at 2, but I really do think it's going to go 7, and I'm going to stick with my prediction. Oilers in 7 over the LA Kings.
I'm going to say it, Bruno. You made a pretty big assumption saying that Dallas and Colorado are going to win their series. We got a ways to go in those ones.
Yeah. I mean, those are the teams that I still think are going to get through, and we'll get to that. They're both tied at 2. Yeah. But this notion that the Oilers were just going to steamroll their way to the Cup Final. Listen, Edmonton might still get to the Cup Final, but it's not going to be as simple as a lot of people thought.
Yeah. I'll say it, and this is not a hot take. They're not going to, and maybe they make it, who knows, you get luck and you need luck, but they're not going to win the whole thing just relying on a power play.
No, there's no chance.
There's no way. Like, you can't just get 5 power plays every game and score 2 or 3 and just be banking on that every time. And even if you were, or if that was your kind of team identity, you need better goaltending. Because if you're trying to win games, if your strategy is, okay, we're going to win games with soccer scores 1-0, 2-1, hope for our power play chances because we have a lethal power play, well, your goalie has to be a stud. And I like Skinner, but he hasn't proven anything for us to think we should have a lot of confidence in him. And
even defensively, man, like the Oilers have not looked great. The blown leads, it hasn't been great. And even, everyone's talking about McDavid's production at 5-on-5 and how he finally broke through in game 4, and we're starting to see, the real Connor McDavid, but it hasn't been pretty, man. This guy who put up over 150 points in the regular season, like Draisaitl's been their best player
Oh,
in this
crazy
series
how
by
good
a
he's been.
mile. I mean,
So,
that
so
guy has
good.
been a monster.
Yeah.
After what we've seen him do over the last 2 playoff years, I mean, that guy, he's unstoppable, man.
It's a freak.
And, the narrative, especially my view of him, has kind of changed. I've always thought he was a really good player. I mean, the guy won the Hart Trophy, and he's had multiple 50-goal seasons, and he's a beast. But what he's done in the playoffs the last couple of years, that I've put him on another level now. I'm not saying he's like
Me
the best
too.
player in the world, but
Me too.
man, oh man, he is a force in the playoffs.
Really quickly, I asked my buddy this the other day because I find they're kind of similar in their body types and their style. If you could have one of Draisaitl, Pasternak, or Kucherov, who would you take?
Draisaitl.
Draisaitl. Okay.
Yeah. I would take
Nice.
Draisaitl, and even like Kucherov, I know he's got the cups and he's got a Hart Trophy as well. I just think Draisaitl's ability to affect the game, and he's really good on the power play, obviously, but I think he's a better 5-on-5 player than those other guys as well. Like, I know Pasternak scored 60 this year, but you don't see Pasternak taking over games the way that Draisaitl does. And the same with Kucherov, man. They're all great players, but the way that Draisaitl can just like flip a switch and be like, all right, I'm just going to be the best player on the ice for the next 5 minutes it's pretty impressive, man.
Yeah. Comment down below, everyone, who you'd take.
All right, Lepore, we can go through some of these other series. We won't spend too much time.
Sure.
We'll start with the other Canadian team, Winnipeg. They're down 3-1 to Vegas. Is that thing over?
I picked the Jets, Bruno. I remember you freaked out when I picked the Jets. I felt good about it. They won game 1. I was strutting down the street with my pick. Told you so, told you so, told you so. Some bad luck. Morrissey got hurt. They had that amazing comeback, fall short because of that giveaway in overtime. Now it looks like Scheifele's out. They're going back to Vegas. It's over. Yeah. Wrap it up. Mail it in. Sorry, Winnipeg. I was hoping for you and I picked you, but I think it's over.
Yeah, now with Morrissey, Scheifele, and Ehlers for that matter, who hasn't even played a playoff game yet, like it's curtains for that team. They're done. Yeah. The other series that's really intriguing me right now is Rangers Devils.
Amazing.
The Rangers blew a golden opportunity. They went up 2-0 on the road. All they had to do was get one game at MSG, and they failed to do that. And now the Devils are going back home for game 5. You had the Devils winning this series, Lepore. I had the Rangers. How do you feel right now about your Devils prediction?
I'll stick to it.
Okay.
I mean, because there's still a positive. I picked Devils in 6. The Rangers now have to beat the Devils 3 times in Jersey at the Prudential Center. So that's a tough task. And you can flip it around and say, well, the Devils have to beat the Rangers. But I'm just saying the Devils win the next game at home, and that puts a lot of pressure on the Rangers MSG. And then you have game 7 back home in New Jersey. So I'll stick with the Devils. The Devils right now are just that team. They got that little bit of mojo. There's a lot of confidence in them. When Hamilton scored that overtime winner, just the look on his face, like the group, like I said earlier about how important it is to play happy. They're playing happy. They're young, upbeat. I think they have the ability to clip a really good team. So I'll stick with New Jersey.
Yeah, I'm scared right now. I had the Rangers in 7. I thought it was going to be a lot easier after they won those first 2 games on the road. I'm going to stick with the Rangers because of all the things I said in the playoff preview show. I just think they're meaner, they're tougher, they're deeper than the Devils are. They have the better goaltender. I think they're going to find a way. Zibanejad and Panarin have combined for 0 goals and 4 assists. They've yet to score a goal. If those guys get going, I think the Rangers take this series. If they stay quiet, they're going to be in trouble. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. That one's going to be awesome. I will stick with Rangers in 7. How about some of these other series tied at 2? Stars and Wild. How do you feel about this one? Because this has been a really good series too. Back and forth. Pavelski's out for Dallas. Obviously a huge loss after Dumba drilled him in game 1. I'm sticking with my Dallas Stars. I'm going to say Dallas still wins in 6. I'm going to say they win the next 2 games, but how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, I picked Dallas, and I said when we did these predictions, this was a tough one for me because I really like both teams, but I'll stick with Dallas that they win the series. Ottinger, man. Ottinger. I believe in him, and kind of how I made the point before about Skinner, how, we've never really seen it. And people say, well, he hasn't had that many opportunities, but you could say, well, then I just don't know. So I don't have the answer. Ottinger, I've seen it. Last year, he was incredible in that
against
first
Calgary.
round. Yeah,
He put on a show. They lost that series, but that may have been one of the greatest goaltending performances I've seen in the playoffs.
No doubt about it. And even the other day, he looked great. I'll stick with Dallas. As much as I love Minnesota, like I love Zuccarello, I love Kaprizov, I love everything about that team, but it's hard for me not to pick the Stars.
Another reason I'm sticking with Dallas is because I have them going pretty deep in the playoffs, and they got to get Pavelski back. If they don't have Pavelski moving forward, and I don't know when he's going to be back, they're going to be in trouble. But I still think they can get through Minnesota without him, and they need a big performance in Game 5. The other series, Lepore tied at 2, is Avalanche and Kraken.
Yeah.
The Kraken won in overtime in Game 4 to tie it up at 2. Should we be worried about the defending Stanley Cup champion Colorado Avalanche?
I mean, it's 2-2, but I don't think so. I think we've seen enough from Colorado, and we know enough about them that when push comes to shove, they're not going to lose that last game. So I'll stick with Colorado with my prediction. But full credit to Seattle, man. We've talked before about the word annoying on this show, about how a team can be annoying, and we use that in a complimentary way. Seattle's annoying. Like, they're quick, they're fast, they can score. Just when you think you have them, you don't, right? Just props to them, but I still got the Avs pulling through.
Yeah, I got the Avalanche as well. I find it hard to believe that they're going to lose to this team in the playoffs for the first time. I think Colorado finds a way, but you said it, man. We talked about it on the playoff preview show, how fast the Kraken are. They can score goals. We both knew they would cause some problems. I had the Avalanche in 6. I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to say they win the next 2 games, but shout out to the Kraken, who have looked very good. And then we can go now to these 3-1 series. I think we can kind of just lump these together, honestly. Boston, I mean, we don't have, okay, let's not lump them together. Let's start with Boston and Florida. It did seem that Florida could make this a series. Like, Bergeron's been out. Then the injury to Krejci. Like, how does Florida not take advantage of Boston having their top 2 centermen out? It's insane.
Yeah, on 2 games at home ice.
Like, is Boston just that good? What the hell?
Like, I honestly thought I thought at least we're going back to Boston 2-2. Brutal. Missed opportunity. And even it was Game 3 where I think it was a close score. I think it was 3-1, I think it finished. But Boston annihilated them. I had the game on. The puck was in the Panthers' end the entire game. So I'm not going to even imagine a possibility that Boston's going to lose 3 games in a row, 2 of them on home ice, to lose to the Florida Panthers in the first round.
Yeah, that series is lights out. Good night, Florida. You had your chance. You can't beat this team without Bergeron and Krejci. See you later.
Done.
How about this Hurricanes Islanders series? This is like the sexy underdog pick. Everyone was taking the Islanders. I said it on the playoff preview show. Like, this is going to be a quick series. Hurricanes in 5. And I'm going to stick with that. Like, I'm sorry, man. The Islanders stink. These guys can't score goals. Like, when Sorokin's not at the top of his game, like, they just can't win because they can't score. And even the Hurricanes, without Svechnikov, now without Teuvo Teravainen, without Max Pacioretty, it still looks like they're going to breeze through this series. I don't know if they're going to win in 5. I mean, they have a good chance to it on home ice, but it looks like it's done.
Yeah, it's done. Similar to to Boston, Carolina's not going to lose 3 games in a row, 2 of them on home ice, to the New York Islanders. It's not going to happen. I mean, it's funny. Of all these ones at 3-1, if we had to pick one that could be a comeback, we'd pick Tampa.
We would pick Tampa.
100%.
Exactly. I was just going to ask you that. If you had to pick one of these teams down 3-1 to come back, I think it's obvious. It's Tampa.
Yeah, but if I'm mistaken, every team that's up 3-1 has home ice advantage too.
Yes.
But funny how we don't believe in our Leafs even when things are going really good.
Unbelievable. We need to see them cross the finish line. Just cross the finish line one time here. Golden opportunity on Thursday. Anything else you want to get off your chest before we end this podcast? I think it's just get the job done on Thursday night and close this thing out in 5.
There's nothing to say. Really, there's nothing to say. You always try to picture those speeches the coaches give before the game, like in the movies, to rev their team up and they run out onto the field to win the state championship or something. What is Keefe going to say? What's he going to say?
You don't have to say anything. You nailed it.
Guys, if I have to explain something here, there's a problem. There's a huge, huge problem. Go out there and do it. That's it.
You know what I would love? Never mind a Sheldon Keefe pep talk and some of the things we saw in the All or Nothing documentary. Like, I want to see Austin Matthews or Ryan O'Reilly or JT or Morgan Riley, Martin or whoever. I want to see one of them step up before the game. And we probably won't see this until after the game. And maybe the Leafs release like some social media behind the scenes video. One of those guys has to step up and just be like, boys, it's fucking go time. Let's close this shit out. Let's not play nervous. Let's fucking end this right now, tonight on home ice.
Wait, quickly on the topic of knowing what people are going to say. I'll ask you this, Bruno. If you had a choice of seeing Game 5 live in the arena, free ticket, or you could have Spezza and Dubas mic'd up privately. You can hear everywhere. You're the fly on the wall. What would you pick?
Oh, all day I'm taking Spezza and Dubas mic'd up in the box.
Oh my God.
I would love to be a fly on the wall, man.
A+ entertainment, like historical A+ entertainment.
Yeah, like I would pick that. Honestly, Lepore 10 times out of 10 over going to see Game 5 in person for free. Crazy. I'm not even kidding. I want to hear everything that Dubas and Spezza are saying. I would love that.
So good, man. So good.
All right. That is going to do it for episode 101 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. Thank you so much for your support along the way. If you are a new listener or a longtime listener, it would be a big time help if you give us a 5-star rating on either Apple or Spotify, whatever platform you use to listen to your podcasts. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we would appreciate it so much if you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. Let us know your prediction for the rest of the Leafs Lightning series. We would love to hear it. And ring that notification bell while you're at it so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content. So for Michael Lepore, I'm Anthony Bruno. Go Leafs, go. End it in 5. And we will see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.